There are all kinds of classics in childhood, and those classics are not necessarily passed on to the present, not to mention the classic games like Pokémon, which are still popular from 1996 until today. As a trainer who has played every Pokémon, the Pokémon series also has a little game experience. If you are also a Pokémon old player, watching this video should help you to find your childhood memories back. If you are still young new players, it does not matter. Let's review together how Pokémon was born. On February 27, 1996, a legendary game was born, or should I say two. Pokémon Red and Green versions were launched in Japan respectively. Why is the first generation of Japanese Pokémon in Red and Green versions? In fact, Mr. Satoshi Tajiri, the father of Pokémon, has already answered. At that time the Pokémon clientele is the children, so as far as possible do not want to then use the cold color. Choosing red and green is a tribute to Mario and Luigi. Later on, a special blue version was sold in the magazine. However, because the way to get blue was too difficult at that time, Nintendo also special additional sales of blue. The games were later released as red and blue versions in North America and Australia in 1998 and Europe in 1999. When Pokémon was not a game that received attention, advertising is not as luxurious as it is now, but rather a bit inexplicable. If you have seen this ad, you must not imagine that Pokémon can still exist after many years. With the ball-shaped capsule props, Pokémon Ball, capture the creatures called Pokémon, and then cultivate them, and other Pokémon dual battle RPG game. At that time, it was a breakthrough design to be able to edit the team by yourself. And this first generation of Pokémon also has an innovative design is a dual version of the sale. Let the two versions have their own limited Pokémon that can be captured. If your friend is another version, you can exchange with him. You cannot capture the Pokémon. This also motivates more players to play together and play against each other. The above concept, coupled with the fun and innovative game system, created a huge buzz in Japan and made the series one of the most popular games at the time. At the same time, it successfully saved Nintendo, which was constantly suppressed by Sony's PlayStation. And it also saved the handheld game console, which has almost disappeared at that time. It can be said that if there is no first-generation Pokémon, there are no more PSP, NDS, Switch. The story of this game and the game process is also very simple, is to capture your favorite Pokémon, cultivate them, let them help you defeat all kinds of trainers, become the region of Kanto's champion. Pokémon of each region is made with reference to the real map. The previous generations of Pokémon are based on the Japanese region, and Kanto, which is based on the real-life Kanto region in Japan. In the early days of the Red and Green sale, most players only focus on challenging the championship and breaking the plot, and a small number of players will also unlock the Pokédex, but then gradually developed with 150 Pokémon to form a special team with moves, and other players against the game. Because the Pokémon battle system unexpectedly interesting, but also test the strategic, and then derived from the Pokémon battle tournament. However, because of the poor balance of the first generation of the game, it was almost a combination of Tauros with Hyper Beam and Mewtwo. The first generation of the battle is almost Hyper Beam and Blizzard. There is no prop system yet, so the battle is only to spell a hit must kill. Even with such an unbalanced matchmaking system, it was a unique matchmaking game at that time. And Pokémon is Game Freak with a low budget to make the game. The battle between players is only in the game is almost complete. Nintendo asked to add the system, so there are balance problems is very normal. The first generation of the game props classification is super confusing, the use of hidden machine to jump back to the screen to choose Pokémon, although the above experience a variety of inconvenience, but after all is the first work, full of experimental nature. Time proves everything, it is a very successful work. The most special Pokémon of course is Mew. Originally Mew only existed in the setting of the Pokémon. Initially the production team only intended to let Mew debut in the Pokémon house in front of the notes written in the diary. February 6th, Mew gave birth. It is a truly unobtainable legendary Pokémon. But because Mr. Shigeki Morimoto, one of the game designers, took out the debug software when the game was almost finished, and used the remaining 300 byte space to make Mew. This is why Mew's appearance is very simple, because there is not much space left in the game, and Mew so secretly with the other 150 Pokémon, was sent to the world in the game cassette. Originally Mr. Shigeki Morimoto thought that no one would find the existence of Mew, but there were too many bugs in the first generation. There was a bug that could be used to meet Mew, such as Mew Glitch. After the news that Mew had been secretly put into the game data was confirmed, Nintendo and Game Freak instead used the information to send Mew out as a gift for various events. I still remember my first time playing Game Boy. Pokémon Red was my first Pokémon game. At that time I wandered in Pallet Town for a long time. Even if there was no fighting, just hanging out in a small town, I was still very happy. I really love the BGM. After going to the grass, you will understand how to play this game. Fortunately, my favorite was Squirtle, not Charmander or Bulbasaur, otherwise even Brock might not have been able to win. I still remember the first legendary Pokémon I caught was Zapdos, in the unmanned power plant, in a building without any NPCs. The excitement of encountering the legendary Pokémon with fixed in-game locations for the first time is very moving until now. In fact, the first generation of Pokémon have too many deep memories. I believe that we are also different. But I think the BGM is one of the most memorable parts. How many of you recall your childhood when you hear these BGM? How many of you listening to this BGM recall the earliest days of Pokémon Center, or the eerie BGM of Lavender Town? Apart from the fact that the environment at that time did not have cell phones and the internet as incentives for people to be distracted by the game, the BGM is very attractive and corresponds to the entire Pokémon worldview. Secondly, I think the most iconic thing about Pokémon is the initial dot matrix. In the era when it was very difficult to write games, it was very difficult to use a Game Boy with very poor performance to show 151 Pokémon and trainers. That is a bunch of black and white screen. Exactly how to use such limited hardware, the performance of the living Pokémon. But Game Freak did. They used the dot matrix to create Pikachu, Charizard, Mewtwo, etc. To look today can also be immediately recognized, extremely impressive Pokémon. Although Pikachu weight loss success. And more famous than the first generation of the extension series, Special Pikachu Edition, more commonly known as the Pokémon Yellow version. It's an enhanced version released in Japan in 1998 and other regions in 1999 and 2000. This is a special edition to commemorate the animation. Although the overall is no different from the previous work, in this version, not only all the Pokémon's dot matrix map is replaced with a version close to the TV animation, the Pokémon that you get at the beginning is no longer the 3 starter Pokémon of Kanto, but the main character of the animation Pikachu. Although using Pikachu to challenge the first gym's Brock is hard mode, in Yellow, in addition to the Pikachu in your hand will not evolve, in the course of the game can be based on the plot, slowly get the starter Pokémons. The Team Rocket encounter during the trip turns into an animated version of Jesse and James. In addition, originally in Viridian Forest is impossible to find wild Pidgeotto, but in Yellow, to match Ash's trip, changed to have a low chance of encountering Pidgeotto. So when does Ash go back to pick up Pidgeot? The most special point of Yellow is that Pikachu will always follow you, and the exclusive intimacy cultivation. Of course, you can also swap it out for other versions to force it to evolve, but when it comes back, Raichu won't be following you anymore. The last thing to add is that this version of Pikachu's voice is based on the voice of the animated version, Miss Akue Otani's voice. The voice is not a dub, it's a computer synthesis by the producer Mr. Junichi Masuda. Lastly, let's talk about Red. What was Red's first Pokémon? People's impression of Red may be that it uses Charizard more. After all, Origin and Pokémon Master both use Charizard as their ace. But in fact, initially, in the most orthodox setting, Red's first Pokémon is actually Bulbasaur. Instead, Charizard is a Pokémon that belongs to rival Green. Charizard was more popular and Venusaur had to give way to cater to everyone's preference. However, in the comic version, you can see the wonderful images of Red being active with Bulbasaur. What are your memories of the first generation of Pokémon? Let's comment below and see if anyone has the same idea as you.